If your students are breaking the same classroom rule again and again, I have a really simple and reliable way to fix it. But first, if you haven't done so already, please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Leave a comment below. I would really appreciate it. So the first step, if that same rule keeps being broken again and again, let's say it's the raising your hand rule. Students are calling out, forgetting to raise their hand, or they raise their hand and then start speaking as their hand goes up. The first thing that you want to do is that you want to reteach that rule. So you want to reteach that rule using, as an example, the behavior that is being broken. So whatever the theme is. So if it's students raising their hand and calling out or just yelling out, you're going to reteach the raise your hand rule using that as an example. Anytime, it doesn't matter what the behavior is, if it keeps, or the rule is that keeps being broken again and again, that's your sign that you must reteach it. The second thing, and by the way, the same steps you'll follow regardless of what the rule is or what the behavior that's breaking that rule is. The next step is for you to model how to. So this is modeling how to follow the rule correctly. And so you will yourself sit in a student's seat and show your students how to raise their hand in the way that is most optimum, the way that you want them to. And you can decide however you want them to raise their hand, exactly the way you want it to look. And so for me, I want them sitting all the way down in their seats with their hands straight up, not waving at me, but with their hands straight up and waiting patiently. I also want them to, when I look at them, I want them to know that that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to call on them. So they have to have their hand up and wait to be called on. And so what I'll do is I'll sit and model being a student. I'll choose a student to be a teacher calling on me, and I'll show them how to do it. Really, really simple. Almost so simple that you're thinking to yourself, well, I could just explain that. Don't explain it, just show them. And you can explain while showing them, but they need to see it for it to really make an impact on them. The next step is to model how not to do it. Model how not. And this is really, really powerful because you're going to use the exact same behavior that you're seeing in order to model how not. So let's say that students are breaking that rule in two different ways, the same ways that I mentioned. They're raising their hand, but then they call out when you look at them. Or they're just calling out. And so you want to model those two exactly. So you'll say, this is exactly how you don't do it. And you'll model that. You want to parrot back the same exact behavior that you're seeing. You can have fun with this. So you can make it, you can take it to an absurd degree if you want. You can exaggerate the behavior. As long as it doesn't come across as you're making fun of them, and it won't, they'll think it's funny. And again, it's okay to enjoy it. It's okay to laugh while you're modeling. Again, you're not going to be silly when you're doing it, but you can exaggerate just a little bit. You can and should mimic the same behavior that you're seeing. Because your students, you want them to see their behavior as absurd. You want them to experience and really be able to grasp how that behavior is interrupting the class, how it is interfering with the teacher or the student who's playing the teacher, how it's interfering with the lesson. and interfering with everyone else. And you can explain that. You can go into why, which would be number 4, is to make sure you explain why. This is a big one, and sometimes this can be the reason why your students are breaking that rule again and again, because you haven't explained in detail why. The students need to know the compelling why for it to really affect their behavior. And there's a lot of research to suggest that when you explain why, whatever it is, that whoever you're talking to is more apt to see things your way, or more apt to believe in whatever you're saying, or whatever you're making a statement about. When you explain the reasoning, they're more likely to buy in. And so if you combine these two, so you reteach in detail, you model how you want it to be done so they can see it, model how not, and then make sure that you're explaining the benefits, how you don't want to waste time, and how it's only fair to wait to be called on, and that if you call out, you're essentially jumping to the front of the line, and it's not fair to the rest of the class. And that's all you need to do. It's very, very simple. Now, one last thing is that it's important to mention that reminders, so when you give a reminder before misbehavior or right before the possibility of a certain misbehavior, reminders then are always good. Reminders after a misbehavior has occurred are always bad, because that means you're not following your classroom management plan. You're not being consistent. So for example, if I give a lesson about something and I want student participation and I ask a question of the class, and before I know they're going to be raising their hands, and so right before it I'll say, hey, remember, I'm going to ask in a second, in a moment, I'm going to ask a question, ask you some questions about what we just talked about, and I want you to participate. If you have a good thought, a good idea, or you want to contribute, make sure you follow the raising your hand rule exactly like we taught. And this is a reminder beforehand, and it really helps them to groove this behavior, to turn that hand raising process into a habit that they do without thinking. And in this way, they stop misbehaving. They stop breaking this rule anymore. And once again, you can do this for every rule. So once you've done that, you can go to the next one. Well, if there's another rule that's being broken frequently, go through the same steps. Okay? And I know that if you do this, you'll find whatever behavior you focus on and make absurd in the eyes of your students, and with a lot of clarity and explaining why, that misbehavior will all but disappear in your classroom. I hope this helps. Hope you're having a great week. I'll see you next time.